There's never going to be another August 27th, 2007. I won't ever be able to relive the day that me and my neighbor, a boy 5 months older than me named Buddy, would set up a tarp with hose water and dish soap and turn our conjoined front yards into the single greatest slip and slide event in the history of forever. We would flip, slide, and burn our skin across the grass for hours straight, our energy never dropping as we devised the next plan, the next strategy to go further, slide faster, and scream louder. This time, I'll do a running front flip to go faster. You should side dive so you can be like a spear. Hours would melt away and the sun would get higher and eventually lower into the sky. Eventually, as all things do, it got colder and darker. The hose was turned off, the tarp dried and folded back up, and Buddy would return to his house next door, his bedroom light flickering on as he started to get ready to change into his pajamas. I would do the same, and this would become just a memory. 2019's The Outer Wilds is a game about the most important day, the first day that you launch off into space to become the next great explorer. The game will point blank ask you, what will you do? Are you going to explore the nearest planet? What about uncovering the secret of a long dead civilization called the Nomai? Or what about this mysterious bramble you keep hearing about that's on the very edge of the solar system? What if you were the person who gets to discover the mystery of that? The truth is, none of these questions actually matter. Because at the end of the day, you and everything else are going to die. You have this one single day left, so what are you going to do? The hard truth of it is that you don't even have that long, though. You actually have about 22 minutes. At the end of the 22 minutes, the sun explodes and everything with it will be gone. And then suddenly you'll wake up, back at your camp, exactly 22 minutes before the sun dies again. You will live these 22 minutes over and over again for as long as you choose to. A single day of infinite possibilities and stories with one single conclusion. Now the obvious choice is to panic at first. Tell everybody that the world is ending, but only you are aware. What good is that going to do though? You can't save everyone, can you? It's a whole planet of people, and you're one person. Hell, you're not even sure if you can save yourself. So you sit down and start thinking, what can I do? What can I do about this? And the only conclusion you can come to is, why panic? Why freak every single person out? In 22 minutes, the sun's going to die, and you will wake up back on your campsite. You have an infinite 22 minutes, so why not make the most of it? There's never going to be another July 13th, 2001. I'll never be able to wake up again on my 7th birthday, rip open a present from my parents, and receive a purple Game Boy with a copy of the Konami classic Crazy Racers and a Mega Man game. I would have all the neighborhood kids come over for food and activities and gifts. My best friend would buy me a Transformers toy that I never quite figured out how to actually play with, forever stuck in a horrifying half-car, half-man monstrous display. After lunch, a boy who lived behind me named Troy would tackle me during a game of tag. My right wrist would fly underneath the both of us and bend the wrong way, and I'd scream out in pain, with Troy, the much larger kid who didn't understand his own boyish strength, panicking and calling for his parents. Luckily, nothing was broken. The day could be mostly salvaged, if a bit for my bruised ego and hurt wrist. My mom would bandage and ice it, and Troy's mom would take him home back behind his house and scold him for the rest of the night. Still to this day, my wrist hurts in the cold and clicks whenever I bend it. No matter how much time passes, no matter how many things I do, no matter how many memories I make, I will have a forever reminder of the greatest birthday I ever had. And it's all thanks to Troy and an impulsive decision he made in an attempt to try and win a childish game. The Outer Wilds has to be one of the most frustrating and yet intriguing experiences I've had with any piece of media ever. It might sound absolutely insane to say, but I'd put it up there with the first time I watched Eraserhead by David Lynch. A complex, unwieldy beast that does not care if you like it or not. Things will make very little sense unless you engage with them on their terms. Much like Eraserhead, The Outer Wilds doesn't care if you explore every single nook and cranny and atom. It doesn't care if you spend the next 4,000 years sitting at the campfire and roasting marshmallows until the sun explodes on repeat. It doesn't care if you blast off and try to find the secrets of the Nomai and their whole history and their story of trying to discover the eye of the universe and what quantum mechanics mean. Hell, the game doesn't care if you just simply give up. All the Outer Wilds cares about is that you're doing this on your terms and at your pace. You need to slow down, breathe, and watch the stars go out. That's all it's actually ever asking you to do. Everything else is based on your own desire and curiosity to discover more. There's never going to be another March 3rd, 2014, when me and a group of friends in college would awaken, high up in the mountains of Georgia, to discover an entirely frozen forest, so still that you could hear the individual snowflakes collecting on the evergreen tree branches. There, 3 of my closest friends, Kyle, Kayla, Andrew, and myself, would slowly descend from our hilltop campsite, trying our best not to lose our footing and fall into the snowbanks. We'd arrive at the only place for solace, the woman's bathroom with a broken heater, so warm and humid that we'd strip down to our t-shirts and underwear just for comfort. I would end up spending the entire day peeling damp page after damp page back in the copy of Poison by Chris Wooding that another friend had loaned to me for the trip. A book that I was confused about and convinced was not for me, only to suddenly realize that this was one of the most incredible reading experiences I would ever have. I would end up ripping through this book, obsessed with it, poring over every single action, reaction, and line that has been put to page. And with tears in my eyes, and still many hours left in the day, I would finish Poison. Moving on to the next book, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I would rip through this book as well, damp page after damp page, fascinated by the story of Billy Pilgrim. And then within one sitting again, be finished with the book. And then I would move on to whatever other random books I happened to have packed into my old Jeep Cherokee. As the day would go on, after multiple books, several games of euchre, and 2 more campers joining us in that steamy woman's bathroom, the night would come and we'd all have to return to our tents. We'd huddle for warmth and talk about our favorite YouTube videos or video games or whatever a bunch of 20-somethings in 2015 would talk about. The dark, cold night came, and with that, the end of our journey. The following morning, we would wake up, pack up my car, and we would slowly descend from the mountains, back to our home in Michigan. While exploring the universe in the Outer Wilds, you'll eventually discover that the Nomai, an ancient race of 3-eyed aliens who built wondrous technology, were able to store their memories into statues that would protect them in case they died. That way, they could be retrieved and revived in case of an emergency, such as, for example, the sun exploding. Now wait, I know what you're thinking. This might be a solution. We just have to push through and find their technology and upload everybody to it. Then, when the sun actually explodes, everybody will have their memories still, and we can all work together to try and save this. What if we can stop the sun from exploding? What if we just needed a little bit more time? What if we just kept pushing, kept looping everybody together? We just need to find the way to do this. But how do we do that? The only reason why you're even able to do this loop is because you found what, as far as you can tell, was the last Nomai statue and upload yourself. It's not like there's a whole room of these statues sitting around waiting for your entire race to upload themselves to it. There isn't any more. You took the last one. Only you can loop. Only you can keep your memories. And even if they all kept their memories, would that solve anything? Or would you just kick the can down the road? The sun's exploding. You're not some great mythical savior of the universe. Your people aren't even that technologically advanced. It's kind of amazing that you even got a rocket into orbit, it seems. How, even with all the resources of every single other person on your planet, could you save everything? Could you stop the sun if the Nomai couldn't stop the sun from exploding? What chance do you have? This is literally your first rodeo, the first time you will ever go to space. Nothing's gonna change that. You have one day, not even one day, you have 22 minutes. There's never gonna be another January 8th, 2026. Earlier this year, I was laid off without warning from a job I spent nearly 3 years breaking my back for. No heads up, no warning, nothing. I just came in, sat down, and then my HR grabbed me before I was even able to let my coffee cool enough to drink, and simply told me, "Company's going through some changes, your role's been made redundant, thank you for your service." I wasn't given an opportunity to defend myself, I wasn't able to ask for a new role, just simply, "Thanks, see you later." Every day has felt like a weird cycle in itself. I do what I can to maintain a schedule and a positive outlook, get out of my apartment, meet my friends, and still make memories. Hell, I'm even trying to enjoy the nice weather of the PNW. For what it's worth, it's been pretty gray and rainy for 4 or 5 months straight, maybe 6. But I'm focusing on what I can. Focusing on the good stuff, focusing on the day, focusing on the loop, focusing on if each day repeats, how do I change it? What do I save? What can I do to save the universe? My universe. I'm not going to be able to change everything in one day, but I can still make the most of it. And I find hope in that at least. Upon doing more research, it turns out that the Nomai might have even known about the universe ending. In fact, it might be their fault directly. They planned to blow up the sun so they could create enough energy to get back to their home planet. The only reason why they even invented the memory statues was in case things went wrong. This was probably the most devastated I've personally felt in my experience with the Outer Wilds. The fact that the most interesting and fascinating species that I've discovered, who is effectively the main protagonist of the story if you just focus on hieroglyphs, was the villain the whole time? They didn't want to save us, they were trying to destroy us, and now because of their own plans they actually failed at doing, they've doomed everyone. So the loop isn't even for solving this, the loop is just an accident, and now like some sick, twisted, Kafka-esque joke, I'm just stuck in it forever, playing over and over again, trying to figure out anything else I can do, when I know that no matter what, all I'll ever do is die and suffer eternally, forever stuck in this demise. I won't lie, this sucked. This really hurt. This was the moment that I thought about dropping the game altogether. I didn't want to be stuck in a loop forever. I didn't want to see the Nomai as these evil creatures. And it was at this moment that I started thinking back to what one of the fellow travelers, a small, laid-back flute-playing guy named Gabbro, told me. When you ask for his explanation on what to do when faced with repeating impending death, he says the following. Deep breaths. No, seriously, I meditate. You want me to teach you? It'll be the next loop before you know it. Okay. Close your eyes. There will never be another November 11th, 2011. The day that me and 4 of my closest friends, Sean, Aaron, Sean, and Ron, would take to the stage and debut as our very first band together, poorly ripping through covers of Black Sabbath, Alice in Chains, and our own half-baked original tracks. We ended up calling ourselves Gateway 319 based off of a dream I had in which I couldn't escape an airport after hours of searching. We dreamed of becoming the next big progressive metal band with the likes of Dream Theater, Tool, and Coheed and Cambria. But the truth is that the band would last maybe 6 months after our first show. Everybody had their own different idea of what our sound should be, our aesthetics, what we wanted to do, when we were going to tour, all those things. But the first show, playing to a room of about a dozen of our friends who would cheer and shout after every single flub note and off-key tune, will forever be etched into my heart. All before we had to leave the show early because 16-year-olds weren't allowed to drive past 10 p.m. in Michigan. We would end up cheering each other on as we peeled out of the bowling alley parking lot next to the venue, vibrating off the pure adrenaline and endorphins of doing it. We had played our first show ever and had taken the first steps to becoming the rock stars we dreamed of becoming. After countless loops in the Outer Wilds, eventually you'll realize the main goal you're actually trying to achieve. The Nomai didn't blow up the sun like you thought. The sun is just dying. It's a natural part of the universe, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. However, you can experience something that no one else has. You and only you can find the eye of the universe, where everything started from. You need to sever the loop yourself and jump further than any living being has ever done before. Putting your faith in the universe, you're going to need to fling yourself across black holes, use teleporting rocks, and eventually dodge eldritch horror anglerfish that fly through the sky. All you need to make sure is that you have faith that the universe will care about you and that you're going to be okay. And when you do all of this, when you get to the eye of the universe, what do you find? A campfire, with all your friends, the ones who you've been talking to and working with every single loop. They have their instruments. You have a marshmallow, and together you will simply watch the universe end from the center, playing out the title track of the game, a small folksy tune called Travelers. Because that's all we ever were. There will never be another October 8th, 2022. I would drive 45 minutes north of Seattle to a cat rescue to meet with a 5-year-old stray I had seen online. There was countless other kittens and cats available that day, all of them more playful, energetic, and excited than the strange white and black one that I was there for. This cat sat in the corner of his cage looking sad, scared, and quiet. He would only barely play with the toys they provided with him, instead opting to simply sit in the corner and watch the world from outside his cage. The attendant would tell me that he was a really great guy, he just has a grumpy face, and that I shouldn't worry about how uninterested he seemed. But none of that actually mattered to me. The truth was that I could barely hear what she was saying, because I had already made up my mind. I would leave the rescue with that sad, scared cat in tow, and he'd scream and howl the whole time, completely unaware that for the very first time in his life, he was going home. I won't lie that it took me quite a bit longer than it should reasonably take to get the Outer Wilds. I've been playing this game for nearly 6 months and only just gotten to the end of it for the very first time. I've spent countless hours trying out different ideas, new strategies, exploring more and more areas, exploring the same areas on different times in the loop, and I would just keep coming up empty-handed and frustrated beyond belief. But something would keep me coming back to it. I would spend a few weeks away from it, and the game would just sit there festering in the back of my mind. I would end up listening to the soundtrack on loop and just obsessively thinking about it. Something with this game had stuck with me. The fact of the matter is that the universe will end. There's nothing you can do about it. You weren't meant to save it. You were simply meant to experience it. There will never be another July 13th, 1994. A day that my mother would spend 17 hours in agonizing labor, with my father by her side, him both terrified and amazed for what was going to come up at the end of the day. I would come crawling into this world, cold, scared, and screaming, yet undeniably alive. Afraid, confused, and wide-eyed, not ready to take on the world, not even ready to hold my own head up, but definitely, without a doubt, ready to experience everything that was about to happen. My father would tell me about the snot that ran down my little baby face as he held me in his arms for the very first time. Eyes as deep and dark as the Marianas Trench, taking in all the information the world could give me, each blink a brand new experience. I'd breathe my first breath, and I would begin my travels across this strange new universe. Love, Lee.